everybody, and very welcome to my Sunday night live stream. As always, I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic, like I always do. And yeah, you know how this works. I will be answering your questions whenever you have some. I will be using the super chat primarily. If there's a lot of people asking questions through the super chat, I am promising to answer all of those. And then I will be using the questions coming up on the Mentour Aviation app as well. And then on top of that, I will be taking some questions here from the normal chat as well. So just fire away, guys. I have, at least 45 minutes for you guys. Great to see all of you here, by the way. I see Carrington Woods, Victor Saperkin, Nico Craft. Nico Craft is always here. It's great to see. First of all, before we start with everything else, I want to clarify a few things, okay? First of all, no, I did not force my wife to drive the Clio, okay? Just because I bought a Porsche does not mean that she's driving a Clio. She's driving the family car, which is an Audi A4 3.2 Quattro. That's the car that she actually kind of took from me and then forced me onto the Clio, and that's why I needed to upgrade the car. The second thing is the only reason I did the video that I released today, guys, was to answer some of the questions that has been coming up and to show my passion for for the Porsche or for driving cars in general. I did not do that to show off or anything like that. In fact, this car is probably more cheap than most of the cars that you see up around you. It is definitely cheaper than all of the new A4s or BMWs or Mercedes-Benz or whatever you see out on driving around on the road, okay? So it's a fantastic car to drive. That's the only reason I did it, because I'm getting close to 100 dislikes on the video, which I'm not used to. I understand that some people out there might not like it, but I wanted to share more than just flying stuff with you. I want to share what I think, my opinions. I want to do more inspirational videos. I want to do more videos about things that I find interesting, not just aviation, and you'll find that will be coming up from time to time. So Jake Harvey is the first one on the super chat. Hi Jake, great to see you here, and thank you for contributing to the channel. French Fruits, glad you have your Boxster type rating. Question about exterior lights. When do you turn on and off wing lights and why? Great question. Exterior lights, the way that we use them, I actually covered this in a video, okay, but the wing lights I did not cover, and that's because they are not a mandatory part of the exterior lights. We use the wing lights basically only when we want to check for ice, okay? So when it is dark outside and we're coming in, we're going through a cloud layer, we see that we have accumulated a little bit of ice on the windshield, well then we will switch the wing lights on to see on the leading edges if there's any ice there, okay? The reason we're not using them on the apron, for example, is that they have a tendency to blind other aircraft. So if you switch on the wing lights and you forget them on, they are obviously, shining out over the leading edges and can be shining out into the eyes of other pilots. So we only use them momentarily when we want to check for ice, and that's it. So I hope that answers your questions. Jake Harvey again, hi. Thank you. So Noah Mascarin, good to see you here, Noah. I haven't seen you for a while. Hello Mentor, about a month out from getting my PPL. Excellent. Last time I was on, I was just getting ready for my first solo, and now I'm getting ready for my long cross country. Feel free to check out my flight images on my Instagram. Excellent. So Noah, I guess if you just look for Noah Mascarin, then I will find your Instagram account. If not, just let me know and I'll do a little plug for you, okay? Because the more people who look at fabulous aviation images on Instagram, the better it is. And by the way, guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you follow me on Instagram. I use Instagram to kind of, if I see something cool from the flight deck, I might be able to, quickly get my iPad up and take a picture of it. And I will share that with you guys. So that's a way for you to see a little bit from my everyday job, not only when I'm explaining stuff, but also when I'm flying. And by the way, Noah, best of luck on your skill test. Best of luck on your cross-country flight. Fly safe out there, okay? And let me know how you got on. Jordan Coles, is it true you're replacing Matt LeBlanc as host of Top Gear? Oh man, I wish. Listen, that is a job. Probably take a pause from my flying job to do. All right. So yeah, sure. If any one of you out there have connections within whoever it is that's doing Top Gear now and they need another host, then feel free, to mention my name. I would love to go. I mean, that I think could be one of the best jobs in the world. I think being well paid to drive fabulous cars all over the world and do videos about them. Yeah, I would say that's pretty cool. Maybe we could do an equivalent one on aircraft. I would love to do that. Try out different aircrafts and do videos on it. I'm sure that that would be an interesting show to see. Right, Bikey 4. Here's some cash for your tire bill for that beauty. Thank you. I'm sure that will come in handy, especially if I take the baby to the tracks. The fact is, guys, and this is a well kept secret. Getting a Porsche Boxster, first of all, will cost you less than getting a new normal car. Obviously, you're gonna have to buy a used one, but the fact is that they're normally very well maintained. Second thing is that to maintain the Boxster is costs about the same as for my Audi. To do a service on the Boxster is about 300 euros. It's the same as putting it out on for the Audi. Now, it does use more fuel, but then again, my Audi has a 3.2 V6, so that uses about the same amount of fuel as well. And it probably is going to be slightly more expensive, but it's not that expensive. You can have a great car for much less money than you think. So look into it if you're into cars like I am. But thank you, Bikey4. I'm sure it's going to come in handy. Aaron, Oliver, hi Mentor. We're flying to Italy tomorrow, but my wife is terrified of flying. Can you give me some advice to give her to calm her nerves? Um, yeah, I mean, all of the things that I do on my channel is basically there both to inform you guys who are interested in aviation, but also to inform people who are afraid of flying. Generally, the more you know about the subject, the less scary it will be. But the problem with people who are afraid of flying is that in quite a few cases, the fear of flying has very little to do with actual fear of the aircraft or the flying part. Granted, sometimes it can be due to claustrophobia or something like that, but in most cases, the way that the brain works is that if someone goes through a stressful period or something bad happens in their life and in connection to that they take a flight, then sometimes the brain will find a way to project the stress or the fear onto something that it understands as being scary. And that's why sometimes people, if you ask your wife when she started to be afraid of flying, um, and then ask her if something happened in connection with that. There are people who, for example, get afraid of flying just after they've had kids, because it's a big change in their life, and then they go out flying, and then the brain projects that stress onto the flying part. So ask her if that has something to do with it. Maybe kids, maybe someone, a close relative died, or there's been a breakup at some part in her life, something like that could have potentially triggered the fright. Because, and that's the problem, when people ask me like, can you explain to this person that that it's not dangerous at all to fly, I can do that. I can give statistics, I can explain how it works, but in most cases that won't work because it's not a rational fear, right? It's not the fear of falling down, it's the fear that you get, that the brain projects onto it. And in that case, it's very little that a professional like me can do in explaining it. I know this sounds a little bit out there, but this is the fact. Um, there's very little I can do to help her for tomorrow, but I can tell her that that she is probably safer from the time that she puts her feet on the on the steps out on the aircraft. She's going to be safer and in better hands than she was when she took the bus over, when she walked on the sidewalk next to the airport, when she was inside of the airport, because every single part of her journey is being carefully monitored, controlled, and we do everything in the name of safety. That's what we do. That's what everyone, from the fuelers to the baggage handlers to the air traffic controllers to the pilots to the cabin crew, all of us, we do everything we can to make sure that your journey is as safe as humanly possible. That's what we do. All right. So I hope that makes her feel a little bit better. But do look into it a little bit when that fear of flying started. It could be something that you can kind of fix in a different way than what you think. Jade, Holloway Cox, thank you. I have IBS. Will it be an issue when being employed? Irritable bowel syndrome. No, I don't think so. Right? It depends. It's very hard to tell you straight off, like, yeah, no, it's not going to be, because it depends on how severe it is, obviously. But when it comes to medical questions, I normally do not answer those, but because I'm not a doctor. You're going to have to talk to an aeromedical examiner. Just, write aeromedical examiner and your city, and you'll find loads of names, and you can call one of them up and you can describe it and they can help you out. Okay, but no, I mean, my stomach is not very good either. After having flown 16 years, the stomach goes like a balloon up and down for each takeoff and landing you do. So the stomach, very, very often, people actually have problems with the stomach when they're pilots. Girona is a pro cycling hub. Do you see this? Oh, yeah, there are cyclists everywhere, right? Everywhere, on every single road. That's why you have to be a little bit careful when you're out driving, because the cyclists normally come. Okay, right, so let's see, we will do this instead. All right, guys, so my internet is kind of giving up, as it tends to do. I will continue this, all right? So it seems like it's back on again, but you know how it is. And the problem is that these internet providers I'm using, the closer to summer it comes, the more tourists we have here who's using the internet, so the internet speed goes down all the time. Right, let's see. So there's no more super chat questions, which means that I will go to. Actually, there might be. Let's see. No, all right. So I will go in and have a look in the Mentour Aviation app. By the way, if you haven't gotten the app downloaded, it's completely free to download. Just register yourself, and you can go in and you can ask questions as well for free, obviously. And you have here in the description of the video, you have the links to both Android and iOS in order to download the app. Okay. So let's see if there's any questions here on the Mentour Aviation chat. No, it doesn't seem to be much. Aquapedidot is asking if I am doing a live stream, but yes, I am definitely. Doesn't seem to be updating very well, so let's see. Mentour, how to go from one type rating to another in the company. Let's see, I don't know why it doesn't update here. Yeah, type ratings, if you do it inside of the company, is fairly straightforward. Okay, so if your company is flying different types, then normally there'll be a bidding system, and if you want to go from one type to another, going from short haul to long haul, for example, and you qualify to do so, then the company will elect you, right? So they will select your application and say, right, okay, now you have the seniority number, now we're going to put you onto the course, and then they just do a type rating course, which takes on average around 2 months to do. So if it's inside of the company, not a big problem. It doesn't happen very often though, because as you can imagine, that this is a cost that the company will try to avoid. So I know the flag carriers do this. I would say that most of the other carriers, like Emirates, for example, if you're on a fleet, on the 777 fleet, for example, it's unlikely that you're going to move over to the Airbus fleet, and vice versa, because it's an unnecessary cost for the company to do. Okay. Right. Another question here. How do you become a pilot? Because I don't know how. I have made a whole playlist. First of all, I've made a video it's quite old now. I admit it's probably time to redo it. But I made a video called How to Become a Pilot, where I go through the different paths that you can choose. So you can go for something called modular training, which is where you choose the school and then you do the trainings in part, the different certificates in parts. Or you can do integrated training, which is basically a flight school who's put together a package deal for you to go in and you get all of the training done in chronological order inside of that course. Okay. Why is this? There we go. So that's those are the two main things, and then you have things like MPL schemes as well. But all of this is being covered inside of that video, so go and check that out. And then I have done a playlist with different all the different certificates. I think I might be missing one non-commercial certificate as well that I haven't been covering yet. But I mention them and I kind of go through them one by one, telling them what you can use them for, what the purpose is of them and stuff. So check through that, and that will give you a much better understanding for what it is that you need to do. All right, I hope that makes sense. Gerdelt, how old is the oldest FO in your company? This keeps. Let's see. See if this can continue. If you can see me, guys. All right, seems like I'm back again. Yeah, I've seen a lot of suggestions of me getting wire cutters here, and I'm seriously considering doing that, because if this continues like this, I won't be able to do these live streams anymore because people are just getting pissed off, and I completely understand why. So I'm gonna go in here and continue to answer the super chat questions as long as I have my wet network up and working. How old is the oldest FO in your company? I don't know exactly how old he or she is, but I have met the first officer who was 55 years old. So that I would say probably is around the oldest. That's definitely the oldest FO that I have come across. There might be people who have been captains and who have then gone over back onto the right-hand seat because it felt more secure as well. They feel that they're getting older. That is a possibility, but it wouldn't be something that I know about. But 55, I've met someone who's actually that age. Have you flown into Newcastle? Yeah, I've flown into Newcastle many, many times actually. I love flying up to Scotland. Newcastle is lovely to fly into. I flew in there just a few weeks back actually. Lovely airport to fly to. I really like that. Evening, sir. What is wing flex temperature at takeoff? Wing flex temperature. I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're referring to the flex temperature that they're using on Airbus, which is what we call assumed temperature, that is a way of basically fooling the engines to give out less thrust. Okay, so we have fixed D rates. In the 737, we use 26K, which is 26,000 pounds of thrust. 24K and 22K. So those are the three fixed D rates. But on top of that, in order to kind of fine tune to make sure that we're only getting as much thrust as we absolutely need, then we can tell that the engines that the air that it's using is actually hotter than what it is. It's a way of fooling the machine to think that it's going to give out less thrust than what it actually is. So that's assumed temperature. We tell it, for example, well, we derate it to 42 degrees. That way the N1 will drop down to from maybe 91.6, which is the 22K, to maybe 89, which is exactly as much as we need in order to have comply with all of the performance limits. So that's assumed temperature in the Boeing, which is what they call flex temperature on the Airbus. Okay, Captain Joe has made an excellent video on this subject, so go and check that out. Why don't passenger seats have shoulder harnesses? Yeah, it's a good question. I'm guessing, as with everything when it comes to aviation, everything is a compromise. All right, so the most secure way, or the most secure harness there is of course a like a 6-point or a 4-point seat belt, like the one that we have in the flight deck. All right, the problem with that is children. The problem with that is having the possibility to move around and to eat stuff and do stuff. So the seat belts that you're using as passengers are actually, they are still secure. Okay, and they're not as secure as you would if you would have had a full harness. But like I said, it's always a compromise, and this is a compromise that the licensing authorities have agreed to. Okay, so that's the best answer I can get. That, yeah, in a perfect world, if everything we was looking for, completely everything, would be security, then you would have the whole bells and whistles seatbelt on. But here they've made a compromise saying that yes, this is secure enough, but we can still maintain a certain level of comfort in the cabin. Okay, so I haven't heard any more information about it or any more details about it than that. So you're gonna have to dig into that yourself, I'm afraid. So from Dipti D. Hi, Captain. I got stuck in landings. It's been a long time. Failing an application. Sorry, I got stuck in landings. It's been a long time. Failing an application, though my theory is good. What to do? Yeah, it would be good if you got some kind of feedback why your applications have been have have failed. Have you gotten as far as to the interview stage, or is that just the applications? Because if it's just the applications, there's a number of things that you can improve. You can do courses on this. Um, I believe one of my sponsors for the channel, Skillshare, for example, Skillshare, do courses in how to write CVs and how to write applications correctly. You can probably talk to someone you might know within the airline business who can have a look at your CV and see if there's anything you can do to improve it. When it comes to preparing for applications, preparing for interviews, preparing for those things, there's loads and loads of material out there that you can both read. I have done a couple of videos on the subject. I actually was part of the airlineprep.co.uk team to set up an application. It's a paid application, I must say. Basically, everything that has to do with this, if it's any good, it's a paid application because companies needs to make money. But I think it's fairly cheap. Where they go into giving you exactly these kind of tips that you need in order to be successful in interviews. So check out that. I did a video called How to Ace the Airline Interview. There is links to the app inside of that video if you wanna check it out. Otherwise, if you want some personal advice, if you want to sit down with me, for example, this is something I do with all my Patreons that wants it. So check out my Patreon page as well, and maybe you and me can sit down and have a Skype call and see if there's something that I can help with. But generally speaking, it's just more and more of preparation, research before you go for the interview and things like that. Paul Brosnan, good to see you, Paul. What are the main differences between flying cargo and live cargo? I mean, flying exclusively cargo instead of passengers. There's not much difference to it. I mean, flying-wise is exactly the same. It's normally the roster, as in cargo tends to be a lot more night flying, especially if it's short-haul cargo. There's less stress involved to a certain extent because there's less to deal with passengers and boarding issues and things like that. Cargo has a tendency to behave very well, so it's just about getting it loaded. But then, I haven't flown cargo myself, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what the problems are with flying cargo. But there's no difference as such. I mean, I could start working for a cargo company tomorrow if that was the case. It's just a matter of having the type ratings and flying exactly the same. So no, I mean, I get this question a lot about the difference between cargo pilots and passenger pilots. The fact is that most, if you look at Emirates, for example, if you're an Emirates pilot, you might be flying cargo one day and you might be flying flying passengers the next. So no real difference. Ethan Turner, have I skipped your question? I'm very sorry. I'm going to go back to make sure that I haven't missed that. Right, Ethan. If this is your first paid question, that's probably why I missed it, okay? Because as you can see, there's a lot of these coming in. So it's better to ask the question when you're actually doing a super chat than to tell me that I've missed the question, because now I don't know what to answer. Right, you might have to send it in again. And if you like, since you've sent in this now as a super chat, if you just contact me, if you go to the submit feedback part of the Mentour Aviation app, you can send me an email, and I promise to answer your question there. Okay. Ian, Jill, good to see you here. Ian is one of my patrons, so it's great to see them here. Now, patrons are really, really valuable to me. They do a lot of work when it comes to giving me feedback on videos and things like that before I release them to you. So I'm really pleased to see as many people being involved in Patreon as it is. So does Mrs. 8 get to drive the Porsche and you take the Clio? Ian, I started this live stream by explaining that my wife took my Audi A4 3.2 Quattro when we got together and we had kids, that's the first thing that happened. She had a Clio, I had an Audi, okay? And when we got kids, she took the Audi, I got the Clio, all right? Then I got the Porsche 911 and I drove that for a while. But as I explained in the video, it basically was too expensive for me to drive, right? You know, it's not as pleasurous to drive the car when you're afraid of breaking it, or when you're afraid of getting a chip somewhere in the paint or whatever. So I sold it, but of course the wife still kept the Audi because she's driving with the kids. So I got the Clio, and last summer the air conditioning broke down in the Clio, but I was too cheap to fix it. So I was driving the whole last summer, which was one of the hottest summers in record here in Spain, without air conditioning, and I've driven it up until now. So now I said enough is enough, and I got myself this Boxster. Okay, so my wife is also driving the Boxster. She loves driving the Boxster, but she has the 3.2 Audi as well, which is also a six-cylinder engine, but it's actually almost the same size of engine. So she's very happy with that. Simone, thank you very much for contributing. Now, if you did have a question, Simone, and it didn't come in, then like I said before to Ethan, go into the Mentour Aviation app, use the submit feedback function, and that sends an email directly to me, and just say that you had a super chat question and that it didn't come through, and I'll answer it for you, okay? So, Les Jays, thank you very much, Les. Hi, Mentor, great channel. Firstly, how old is your Porsche? Being an F plate in Spain. Secondly, have you ever heard of DJ Aviation based in Melbourne, Australia? And those daily aviation news. Number one, the Porsche is 12 years old. All right, it's a 2006. That's why it's a first generation 987. It has about 100,000 kilometers. So this is an old car, right? But it's like most Porsches, if it has been maintained correctly, it's not a problem. Okay, this is also why it was so affordable to buy. Have you ever heard of DJ Aviation? Yes, DJ Aviation I've heard of. I can't say that I know much about the channel, but I've heard of them. And those daily aviation news I have not heard of. So I will probably have to check that out. Thank you for the tips. Right, so Geekazoid Tech, Mentor Pilot. What is a way to start flight training? And if you don't have money to do so, how can you get started? Right, this is a reoccurring theme that that I always, more or less always, talk about on these live streams, and I've also done a few videos on it. The fact is that the aviation world is changing. Okay, up until a few years ago, it was only about self-sponsoring. Like, if you wanted to become a pilot, it was up to you to find the money to do so. Or if you were lucky enough to live in a country like Sweden or France, you could apply to the government-sponsored programs there, but they only took in very few people in regards to the size of the population, and if not, you had to self-sponsor. What we're seeing now is a shift. And that's because over the last 2 decades, the status of being a pilot has been constantly dropping. That's because the salaries have been going relatively down, as in they haven't gone up like the rest of the jobs have been doing. And there's been more work, so there's been more work, less pay, and you had to pay for it yourself, right? So the consequence of that has been that not enough people have been trained, okay, and we're now seeing that the airlines are starting to have a problem finding qualified pilots. I'm saying qualified because I do know that there's a lot of people out there who might have gotten their licenses but still can't find a job, even though I'm saying that it's a shortage, and that's because they can't get through the screenings. The screenings are still the same, you know. Even though airlines need a lot of pilots, they will not lower the standards of the screening. So you have to be able to go through the screening. This is why it is absolutely crucial that if you go for training, you have to start with going to do one of these suitability tests. The flight school should give that to you. So, for example, OSM Aviation up in Sweden that I've been in contact with, they always check all of the people who apply for their school. Even though it's self-sponsored, you have to make sure that you have to get through the suitability test before you're admitted into the school. So this is extremely important, because otherwise, even if you do the training, you might not be able to get a job. So very important. So this means that what we're seeing now is that the airlines are starting to pay for part of the training. Now we've seen it with Ryanair, who is now paying for the type ratings. We've seen it with Aer Lingus, who's paying for the entire training. We see it with Lufthansa, with Air France, with British Airways. So what I'm seeing is that there is a possibility that the airlines will start to sponsor more and more of the initial training as well. This is what my channel is working really hard on trying to achieve. Okay, I'm trying to push. I'm trying to. If there's an airline who does this, I try to do an interview with them, let you guys know, and also give that to the airline to get a little bit of help to the recruitment. So I will do whatever I can to try to reduce the cost for you guys, because I think that's really important. Now, having said that, if you can't do any of this, if you can't find a government sponsored program or an airline sponsored program, well, then the only way out, if you don't have rich parents or a way to get a bank loan, is you're gonna have to work, right? You're gonna have to find a job, maybe not a job that you would really like, but a job that pays, and then you will have to save away money, and you will have to fly on when you have enough money to do so. It might take you a few years, but you will get your licenses that way. Now, I have one of the mentor cadets is a great example of this, Dyfrig. All right, if you check out my mentor cadet series and you look up Dyfrig, you'll see someone who is just becoming a pilot through the sheer will, through his heart. Okay, I think he was working as a lumberjack, cutting trees, basically working in the woods, getting as much money as he could, and then he's managed to get a job now within the aviation industry, but not as a pilot, and he's using the money that he's gathering up there to fly and to get his licenses, and he's soon through with his training. You can do this. Everything is possible if you want it, but it will take hard work, dedication, and time. So it's all possible. That was a long answer. So, Nyson Lee, thank you very much. There is a YouTube video showing an Airbus pilot struggling landing a Boeing simulator. How about a Boeing pilot landing an Airbus? Given Airbus is drive-by-wire, fly-by-wire, and I assume it's more forgiving. Yeah, it might be, but the fact is that it's a little bit unfair to put any pilot into a seat of an aircraft that they're not trained on. All right, the basic stick and rudder skills will take a number of hours to get in, even though you might have the initial training done on Cessna, whatever. If you're being put in an aircraft with radically different, like underswung engines, radically different rudder control surfaces and stuff like that, like the size of them, then you will struggle. Okay, and especially if you're coming from a fly-by-wire aircraft like the Airbus to the Boeing. So it's unfair to do that. I think that I would probably struggle a little bit as well if they would put me into an Airbus simulator, simply because I don't know the logic of the side stick, I don't know how much input it wants, I don't have any feel for it, things like that. You need a little bit of time to get into the aircraft that you're flying. I know that I would feel really lost in the beginning, since the thrust levels are not moving. I am used to move the thrust, as I'm flying, to get real feel for the aircraft. The Airbus does not have that in the same way. So the only way of checking this is testing it. So if you are an Airbus simulator pilot out there and you want to test this out, then feel free to send me an invitation and we'll check it out and we'll do a video on it. I think that would be probably good fun to watch. Right. So, Dog Paulie, good to see you here again, Dog. Dog, evening. What's the most egregious common misrepresentation of the airline industry in the news that really gets to you? Yeah, what really gets to me is when they misrepresent incidents and accidents as being because of low safety. Okay, that really bothers me, because obviously the newspapers, they want to sell newspapers, so they want to make as flashy kind of headlines as possible. So they make it look like things that are completely there might have been an incident that happened due to a series of faults or of missions, errors, or things like that. But the system in itself is actually extremely robust. But the newspapers make it look like this. It's just luck that aircraft are not falling down all over the place just because this one incident is indicative of a specific error. That pisses me off, because it's only to make money. It doesn't represent what we are doing, what the industry is doing, and it makes people afraid of flying when they shouldn't be. So that when I see them doing this, airline uses too little fuel or whatever, and I know for a fact that that's not true, that's just absolute bullshit, then I get angry. All right, that annoys me. It also annoys me to a certain extent when people who does not know anything about aviation speak about aviation. So politicians who's talking about what pilots or what the airline industry should or shouldn't do without being informed of what they're actually doing, that's also quite of annoying. But the safety bit is something that can really bug me. Ethan Turner, any advice on how to manage paying a 1K or 1,000 a month loan repayment after flight school if I don't have pilot job for a while? Yeah, you see, I don't have any more kind of advice on that than I have on finding money to become a pilot in the first place. This is one of the risks that you take on when you self fund an airline training that costs £120,000. Right. The fact is that the if you take a loan for that, you're risking to not be able to pay back that loan if you don't get a job immediately. And not only that, you might also get yourself in a position where you can't accept a flying job because it pays too little. All right. So you can imagine having done all that training and then some airline down in Italy whatever tells you that listen, you can come and you can fly the first 2,000 hours with us, but unfortunately we can only pay you 1,500 or 2,000 euros per month net. And you look at it and you see that paying the training loan, your apartment, your car, and your groceries, you won't be able to afford it, so you'll have to turn it down. Now, those things, this is something that you really have to look into. There's a risk in this, all right? There are people who have done their training and haven't found a job for a year or two. So this is why I strongly recommend to try to fund as much as possible while you're training by working or by saving up money or getting a loan from a relative or something where you can get a little bit of leeway, right? And then look at the worst case scenario. You have to count on not getting a job for at least a year, right? Just count on that. If you get a job quicker than that, then that's great. But count on having a budget that allows you to do so. Have a backup job. See that you can come back to whatever job it was that you were doing before you started, and make sure that the money that you're getting from that job can cover this so that you don't sink under, right? Make sure that this is part of risk awareness. This is part of being a pilot in the first place. It's looking at, seeing a problem, projecting that into the future and acting on it. This is extremely important, guys. Otherwise, I hope that at least answered some of your question, even though I can't tell. I mean, if I could tell people how to easily find £1,000 net a month, I would say so, definitely. Steve Chisnell, thank you. Mentor Pilot, any funny flight stories you can share? Silly things on empty or nearly empty flights, or funny exchanges heard on air traffic control? Yeah, I mean, this happens all the time. And something that's fairly common that I've heard of, I haven't had myself, is that people who are doing, for example, ferry flights forgets to seal to close the trolleys and secure the trolleys in the back, and then they take off and they. I think this happened. It's not on my airline, but I think it happened actually one time that one of the trolleys from the back alley came running whoosh down the central aisle and went through because they left the door open because they thought it was fun to have the door open while they were ferry flying, and the trolley came in and just smacked into the center pedestal. So that is, anytime you do something out of the ordinary, make sure that you have followed all the guidance that is there, because this is one of those things that you really don't want to happen. Funny exchanges on ATC you hear them all the time. A friend of mine told me about an exchange up in Dublin where I think it was a BA-28 was out taxiing, and they told the tower, oh, by the way, just to let you know, it said on the flight plan that we're 2 on board, but we're actually 3 on board now. And then you could hear the air traffic control came in. It's like, well, let me be the first to congratulate, sir. And then all of the Aer Lingus and Ryanairs and British Airways came in. It's like, hey, cigar on me, great, I'll bring the whiskey. These are the kind of things that happen from time to time, which makes this job even more fun. But then there's loads of stories. I mean, when I started, it was like a jungle. I heard of a passenger who stood up and peed because the seatbelt sign wasn't turned off because of a lot of turbulence during the flight, and the passenger was complaining about to go to the toilet, didn't go to the toilet, and at the end just stood up and peed on his own seat. Those kind of things happened back in the day, the craziest stuff. Right. So, DipTD. I'm on an initial stage PPL awaiting solo. Application like directional stability, PAPI approach, airspeed, rate of descent, altogether is taking a lot of time. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, all of this does take a lot of time. This is why you have to practice it. Um, Following the PAPI or directional stability on the approach has a lot to do with first of all knowing your aircraft, knowing how it responds to thrust and pitch inputs, but also having a good scan speed. Increasing how you look outside and inside to your speed, your horizon, your speed, your VSI outside, how you move in between the basic T basically. So there's no magic trick to this. You just have to practice, and one day you will just like that, and you will understand it. And from then on, you will not understand why you thought it was difficult in the beginning. But this is all about practice, and this is what you will do during the PPL stage. Jake Harvey, have you missed my super chat message? So Jake, I'm gonna go back here, all the way back. I can see Jake Harvey. Ah, there we go. Yes, I'm very sorry, Jake. Is it odd that my ears don't pop while flying or pain? No, I'm happy for you. It's great that that you don't have any pain, that they don't pop. Some people have a very narrow Eustachian tube. That's the tube that connects the inner ear to your throat. Those are the people who tends to have problems with the ear when they're flying. I am one of those. Right? Whenever I get a cold, my Eustachian tube blocks up almost immediately, and I won't be able to equalize the pressure, so I can't fly. Okay. Some people have very wide of those Eustachian tubes and never had any problems with it. So if you're one of those, then congratulations. But this is what it tends to be. It's not weird. It's just good for you. Right? Great. Rayleigh Bonham, thank you very much. Now your super chat message did not come through. Same with the message retracted below. And so if you have any question for me, just go in, either use Facebook or the Mentour Aviation app. So from the Mentour Aviation app, Mentor, can you please do a video on the bleed air system? Yes, I am planning on doing more system videos. Okay. I have a few more of these failure management things that I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go in and do a little bit more on different systems that I think most people will find interesting. And the bleed air system will be partially covered when I talk about the pressurization system in general, which is really fascinating actually, and it's good for you guys to understand. So yeah, the bleed air system will be covered. I don't think that I will go into type rating detail. I very rarely do, but yeah, I will mention how we take bleed air from different compressor stages in the engine, and how that's being fed through the system and into use for pressurization of the tanks as well, which we do, which you might not know about, the toilet system, all of that. Max 92, does Ryanair take cadets who have more than 5 failures at ATPL exams? We've had a human resource person from Ryanair. He said that it is 3 failures at ATPL. Well, if the human resource person at Ryanair said so, then that is probably the truth. If they said maximum 3, then maximum 3 is likely what it is, unfortunately. I don't know. I can't give you the exact number of those things, but I do know that they look at things like ATPL scores and how many second tries you've had and things like that. So take your time, concentrate on try to get first time passes in your ATPL exams. That's something that I highly recommend. Mentor, can I book a conversation for your next Instagram live? Yeah, I did that. I hope you guys saw that on Instagram the other day. I did live stream as well, because I wanted to try it out, and I realized that I could actually invite people to talk to me directly. That was the coolest thing. And this is something that I am hoping to do more of. But I'm going to do that when I have some time over. I will probably tell you through the Mentour Aviation app, send out a push saying, listen, I'm going to go live on Instagram now if you guys want to come in. So to make sure that you have the push notifications enabled on the Mentour Aviation app, which by the way I am upgrading. All right, I have signed a deal and partially paid for an upgrade to the Mentour Aviation app. I will tell you all of the details of that once the upgrade is done. It is a it's not a huge update like the one I was hoping for, but it is a fairly substantial one that's going to make the chat much easier to use, and there's some other features in there as well that I'm hoping that you guys are going to enjoy. So I really hope that you will like it. Okay, so Jordan calls, why do people drink Bloody Marys on flights? You never see people drinking Bloody Marys anywhere else, but loads of people drink it on flights. I think it's gross. Actually, this is funny because I usually do that as well. I usually take a Bloody Mary. I do it normally though before the flight, to celebrate with my wife that I tend to be traveling with. Yeah, there's a good answer to this. Actually, your taste buds are affected by the pressure altitude. So, for example, Bloody Marys contains, yeah, what is it that it's actually increasing the taste? The taste buds feel tomato juice. That's it. So tomato juice has a little bit of a fada taste to it on the ground, but as you climb, as the pressure gets lower, the taste bud can actually feel the tomato taste better. So it will feel and taste better. And this has been tested and it's actually true. So this is why people tend to like Bloody Marys better on flights. But I think the biggest reason is just out of habit. People think that, yeah, I'm gonna kick off my vacation. I'm gonna have Bloody Mary because that's something I always do when I'm going on vacation. And yeah, I'm going for it now. That I think is the main reason for it. But it does actually have some physical reasoning to it as well. So, Dog Paulie, urban legend is that cold circulate more in aircraft as after smoking was banned. Airlines saved cash by reducing cabin air intake or processing. I suspect this is untrue. Is it? It is and it isn't. Okay, it has nothing to do with smoking or not smoking. That's true. Okay, that is just the smoking and non-smoking has absolutely nothing to do with this. But we do recirculate the air. Okay, we do that to take some strain off the packs, to enable not having to take so much bleed air out from the engines, which takes effect away from the engines and reduces fuel or increases fuel consumption. Okay, so there is a recirculation fan, or two of them actually, that uses the same air that was inside of the cabin, goes out, it is filtrated, and it goes back in again. But sure, that is not it's not optimal if there's someone with a cold inside. The fact is, though, that any place where you cramp together 200 people inside of a small metal tube and a few of them have a cold, you're probably more likely to be infected by it. So, you know, it kind of, yeah, there is a little bit of truth to it, but it's not in the way that it's not like the airlines have conspired to make this a thing. It's just a fact of the physics of flying and pressurized aircraft. Right, guys, I'm going to take a few questions here from the normal chat as well. Coconut water is quite refreshing, I believe, from John B. Yeah, I agree to that. How should I decide whether I want to fly long or short haul from vlogging at Charlie? Good question. Normally you don't get to decide, right? Normally you just apply for any airline that will give you a job, and that might either be short haul or long haul. Now, I've had discussions about the pros and cons of short and long haul before. While a long haul is something that you probably dreamed of, flying to Rio de Janeiro, having 2 nights there with the crew, having a umbrella drink in the sunset, and then 2 days later you fly back again. This is probably what you think about when becoming a pilot. The problem with that, obviously, is that you will be suffering from jet lag and that you will be away from your family when you don't want to. Short haul, on the other hand, is less glamorous. It's normally a lot of flying, and you don't get to see a lot of places, but you do get to spend a lot of time with your family, and you do not get jet lagged, and you can have kind of a normal family life, which you will see after a while becomes what's really important, right? So that's something to at least keep in mind when you're going for it. Have you ever flown to India? No, I have not flown to India so far. This is something I'm looking forward to doing at some point. So, from the Mentour Aviation chat, Mentor, let's see, why are the airplane windows so small? Yeah, that has to do with the pressurization. All right. If you want to look at the documentary about the Havilland Comet, the first jetliner, who actually suffered quite a few accidents after the windows was deemed well, basically the windows were too big and they were square, and they formed a weakness in the hull that after a number of cycles actually cracked, the aircraft cracked open and the aircraft crashed. Okay, so structural integrity of the aircraft is probably the biggest reason for it. Now the windows are becoming bigger. If you see, the 787 has much bigger windows than the 737, and that has to do with new materials that they can use, like for example composites. Right, more questions here. Mentor, it's a lot of repeated questions. Do you prefer the Bose A20 or the ProFlight? Great question. I prefer the ProFlight for the simple reason that it's much lighter, and it is, since I have glasses, it doesn't force the glasses into my head, and it's, the fact that it's lighter makes a big difference for the neck over a long day of flight. However, I'm getting a lot of questions from people who are going into the PPL stage or the initial training, asking if they should get the ProFlight. And remember that the ProFlight, Bose made that for pressurized jets, okay, like the 737 or the Airbus 320. So if you're going into flying propellers, even if you're flying turboprops, I would still go for the A20, because the noise reduction is more powerful and it's better for noisier environments. So if you're going for propeller or turboprop, A20. If you're going pressurized jet, personally I will go for the ProFlight. Right, guys, I'm coming up to 50 minutes here now, so I think I'm going to wrap this up. If you have any more questions that you want to really ask, use the super chat now for the next minute or so. Otherwise, I will be calling it a day, and I will be, I'm not sure that I will be able to deliver a video on Friday. I'm going to try to, but the fact is that I'm flying these mammoth days during the whole week, and I need to record a video during the week in order to be able to release it on Friday. So I'm going to do my absolute best, okay? But if not, you can expect something after the weekend. But I will definitely do my best. Right, guys, so there doesn't seem to be more questions coming up in the super chat. We'll see if there's any final questions here on the Mentour Aviation app. It's a great community in here, by the way. There's more and more people coming in every single day. Mentor, when are you getting your new intro? I'm sure you've mentioned one in a previous stream, and I love your videos, from Oscar246. I'm working on it, all right? I have a friend of mine who did my first intro, who is now working on my new intro. The thing is, he's doing this on his spare time, and he's very busy. So no, I don't really know exactly when that will come, but I'm sure you will notice when it does. Do you plan on making a video about the weather radar on the plane? I wonder how it works, what it can and cannot do. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. That is something I could do a video about, both the history about weather radars, the problems of weather radars, and what the weather radar can and cannot do. So yeah, that's great, actually. I'm going to put that into the list. Okay, guys, that will be it for today. I hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. There'll be another live stream next weekend at the same time, probably at 10 o'clock next Sunday. So tell your friends about it. And yeah, take care. Have a great week, and let me know about all of your aviation endeavors. Okay, I love reading those little notes I get, both on the. Oh, by the way, check out mentorpilot.com. All right, mentorpilot.com. I haven't been plugging that enough. I am doing some blogs there now and then. I haven't done one for a while now, but I'm about to do another one. So go in there, check it out. You can also use the chat on there. There's loads of people in there willing to chat about aviation. So mentorpilot.com, check it out. Have a fantastic week wherever you are, and I will. Let's see this other one. Right, Captain 777. Hi, Mentor. Please try to visit Oman for a vacation. It's an extraordinary, beautiful country in the Middle East, next to the United Arab Emirates. You have to see it to believe me. Yeah, if you invite me, I will come. I would love to show the world to my wife. I would love to be able to use this platform to go and visit cool places and see loads of things regarding aviation, and talk to people about aviation and do more videos on that. So sure, I would, Oman would be a beautiful place to visit. Guys, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.